In this video, I want to show you how to make the most use out of this device, a portable marine VHF radio called Standard Horizon HX890. It's a great sturdy device for marine communications, and I want to show you two advanced features called DSC and GPS navigation. First, let's talk about DSC, or Digital Selective Calling. That's a way to ring up another boat to ask them to move to a different channel. Most boats, when they will be using their mobile radio, they will be sitting on channel 16, which is the safety channel. And so the way that Digital Selective Calling, or DSC, works is that each boat or each radio is assigned an MMSI, which is a kind of phone number for boats. And when you want to call up another boat, you go into this menu here and you say, hey, I'd like to call an individual. And you set up a contact book here. I've already set up some test contacts for different boats. Let me select this one and say, okay, this boat I want to ask to move over to channel 68, for example, where I could have a longer conversation with them. I'm going to select this, and if I hit yes here, which I'm not going to do right now because I'm just testing, but if I were to hit this, it would transmit a call out to that boat, and their radio would ring and say, hey, this person would like to bring you over to channel 68. Do you want to take that call? And that's a much more efficient way to bring other boats over to a different channel for talking to them. Now, the only snag with this is that on this device, entering these kinds of phone number for boats, or MMSIs, if you haven't tried to enter them before, it's kind of tricky. You don't have a full keyboard here, so you have this very, very clunky user interface to enter the phone number, and it could be quite painful to enter, like you're writing a novel or on a flip phone. So we'll go into how we configure that using the computer in a minute. The other thing I want to show you was GPS navigation. So here too, I have a compass, and it's a very, very basic GPS capability. I don't have a marine chart or anything. I just have my course over ground, my speed over ground, and I can set up some waypoints, which is pretty useful to navigate somewhere. Maybe you're on a smaller boat that doesn't have a full navigation setup, or maybe on a rental boat that has equipment you're not familiar with, and you can set up your own waypoints. I have a few set up already here, and this is in Southern California. So let's say I wanted to go to the Marina del Rey south entrance. I can select this waypoint, and it tells me how far away I am from that waypoint and in what direction it is. I can also set up some routes and say I want to go on a particular route, and this is going to let me go through a whole series of waypoints without me having to pick the next waypoint every time. Those two functionalities, they're great, but they require programming from the computer to be really useful, because again, with the GPS, if I want to set up my own waypoints, it's going to be quite difficult. Say I wanted to add a waypoint, I'm going to have the same UI to enter my latitude and longitude. Very, very clunky to use. This is where I want to show you how to use a computer to do these things. There's a website called SHSync that I'll link over in the description that lets you do this kind of configuration a lot more easily. The only thing you'll need is a USB cable to connect your radio to your computer. There is a data port on the side of the radio that takes a USB micro connector. I have one over here. It has a USB micro at one end, and at the other I have something that connects to my computer, in this case a USB-C port. I'm going to plug that in, and then over in SHSync I'm able to hit connect here. I'm going to see a list of devices that I can connect to. I'll pick my radio, which is the only device showing up, and actually it's telling me I haven't placed it in CP mode, so let me do that. Because this device, before it can be used with a computer, it needs to be put in a mode for programming. Let's start by turning the radio off. Hold the menu key, turn it back on again while holding the menu key. And when the screen comes up, I release everything and I am in CP mode, which is the mode that it needs to be in order to be programmed. So I'm going to try this again, connect this SHSync to the device. And now I have access to a number of features to create or modify waypoints, create or modify MMSI numbers for DSC calling, and then a more advanced set of features called YAML that we'll go into as well. To set up waypoints, I can click this button here. The waypoints are being read from the device. Now I have this UI where if I want to edit things, I can change the latitude and longitude of the waypoints that I'm interested in. I can even check where those waypoints are, This goes over to Google Maps. It's not the best nautical chart, but at least I can see where this point is on a map, roughly speaking. So that's how you set up waypoints. There is also an MMSI directory feature. If I have a bunch of these MMSI numbers that I want to configure, I could keep adding more of them here. There's memory for about 100 numbers for individual calling in this device. There's also a group calling feature that lets you call a bunch of different radios together. And you can add MMSI numbers for these groups here as well. The Edit as YAML feature, what it does is it represents the entire configuration of the device as a giant text file. That lets you do things like set up MMSI numbers for individual calling as well as group calling the same way as before. It lets you define waypoints as well. And it also lets you configure routes. So here I can say I define a route that goes through these different waypoints. What the device is going to do is when I navigate on this route, it's going to first take me to the first waypoint, and then it's going to beep really loudly to let me know that I've reached a waypoint, at which point I can hit a key on the device and then it automatically sets the next target to the next waypoint. It also lets me do interesting things for configurations. One of them is inter-ship channel. You might have seen that other menu earlier when I tried the DSC call to another boat. I was asked, which channel do I want to take them over to? And you can preset this to the list of channels that you'd like to use. So if there's a particular channel that you prefer to have your conversations on, you can set that up so that it's easy to reach. And another nifty thing here is you can set up different names for channels. So in my case, there's a few harbors around here where if you do 5 clicks on channel 1081, it will trigger the foghorn, which is great. The only problem is I can never remember which channel it is. So I have set it up now so that on the radio itself, it will say foghorn when I'm on that channel, and I know I'm on the right one. I can also set up scrambler codes if that's my thing. There's different kinds of scrambler settings supported on this device. And then there's this whole bunch of smaller settings that are actually quite important for usability. One I recommend to change is the backlight timer. I think it comes in at a very, very short 3-second in factory settings, and that's pretty inconvenient. You can also set up soft keys to be in groups that are more useful to you, and there's a whole range of settings here that if you're interested in customizing, you can really make the device exactly fit your preferences. There's also an FM receiver capability on this device. You can also set it up here in the YAML editor. Another couple quick features that I'll talk about now. There's a logging feature on the device that you need to turn on in order to use, but once you've turned it on, you can download the GPS log using this button. It downloads it in a format called GPX, which can then be used in other applications. Here I have an example where I used it to look at my track during a navigation. It's really useful. There's also these features for saving and restoring from a DAT file or DAT file. If you really like your device the way it is, you want to back it up so you can restore it later, you can use that functionality to do that. So the summary is this computer software is really useful if you want to make use of these advanced features on the device, because on-device editing of things like MMSI numbers or GPS waypoints is kind of a pain. Also, if you own multiple of these devices, for example, if you have one on your main boat and one for the tender, or let's say you work at a rental shop or you work at a yacht club and you have multiple of these to set up, the YAML file editing feature is really useful to keep those devices in sync, because you can basically copy and paste the whole text file over from one device to another and use that to keep them in the same configuration across your fleet with the same waypoints, the same MMSI numbers, and so on. That's it for how to use DSC and GPS with the Standard Horizon HX890. I hope you have fun with it on the water.